What up, guys? Hope you're having a great night. And Gennady Golovkin is back, scoring a vicious knockout over Steve Rolls in the fourth round. Uh, Pretty crazy looking knockout, to be honest with you. Steve Rolls was caught clean with a left big hook, and he went straight down like a bag of potatoes. It reminded me the way that he went down was similar to the way Pacquiao went down. It was that devastating of a knockout. Steve Rolls was clearly out for the count, tried to get up, but his legs were not there. And the referee, of course, had no other option but to wave off the fight. And Golovkin now improves with another knockout on his victory. 35 knockouts to be exact for Golovkin. He's 39, 1-1 with 35 knockouts. And now Golovkin is now back in the ring after having a 9-month layoff and hiring his new trainer Jonathan Banks. I think this is an interesting fight, and it's something that is interesting to analyze. I do believe that Golovkin. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I'm a huge Gennady Golovkin fan. One of my favorite fighters of today, and I was really hyped for his return. And as you all know, if you follow me on Instagram at Torres Boxing, you know that I try to keep things as unbiased as possible. I always try to give other fighters, maybe fighters that I'm not necessarily a big fan of, also their time. I also try to give them their place because these are fighters. This sport deserves to be as unbiased as possible, and each fighter deserves their respect because these fighters do put their lives on the line, and you can't do anything but respect fighters for being, having that bravery to put their lives on the line. So coming into this fight, prior to this announcement up for this fight, I didn't really know who Steve Rolls was. And so Steve Rolls is coming in here clearly as a mismatched opponent. This was supposed to kind of be more of an introduction for Golovkin onto the DAZN streaming service, kind of like what they did with Canelo. Clearly, it was a little bit different with Canelo. Canelo fought a super middleweight, went up in weight to capture a third title another world title in a third weight division. It is a secondary belt, the WBA title, but that was kind of Canelo's introduction to the zone, and it was against a mismatched opponent as well, a fight that he closed out in just 3 rounds. Gennady Golovkin signs a new contract with the Zone that is worth at least $100 million for 6 fights, and his first fight is also somewhat of an introduction to the streaming service. So what I'm trying to say by this is that, of course, the perspective on Rolls was that he wasn't supposed to be a threat to Golovkin. This was supposed to be more of Golovkin having maybe a highlight reel finish, looking good, introducing himself to the zone to be able to set up a bigger fight for the second time out in the ring. Of course, things could go wrong. We saw it happen just last week when Andy Ruiz Jr. did the unthinkable, dethroned Anthony Joshua in a fight that no one really gave him a chance to win. So upsets are really never out of the equation. You always have to give a fighter respect. If a fighter comes into the fight, laces up their gloves, especially if that fighter is motivated and determined and have that will to win, that's always going to be a dangerous fighter, regardless of how much of an underdog they are. So Steve Rolls, I gave him that same benefit of the doubt. I gave him that same opportunity, that same respect, knowing that he's a fighter. And what he demonstrated tonight is that he was motivated. He had his moments in the fight. He had moments where he did catch Golovkin and, snap Golovkin's head back. And, some of those moments were not expected, to be honest with you. I didn't really expect Rolls to have those moments in the fight, but he did. And I do believe that he gave a good account of himself. He showed his skills. He showed speed. He showed some of it, of that ring ability that he has. So nothing but respect to Rolls. He did hold his own there for as long as the fight lasted. But Golovkin, of course, ended the show in the 4th round. And coming into this, during the fight, first 2-3 rounds, I gotta be honest with you. There was a little bit of concern in me because Golovkin was taking some shots from Rolls, and I was thinking to myself, is Golovkin here aging right before our eyes? Because one of the cool things and one of the things that I've kind of always have thought it was kind of wild is you have your televisions and everything is HD, everything looks beautiful, it looks cinematic, it looks like a movie, right? And so sometimes you see these fighters or these performers and you're just blown away. Everything looks seamless. The way that they're doing things is it just looks like it's easy. But there's moments there where not even high definition quality can hide when a performer starts to age, or they're not necessarily able to perform at their maximum level. I've seen it before. For example, I'm a big wrestling fan as well. WWE, for example, when you have these older wrestlers, the quality of the product looks top notch, but of course, age always comes through and cannot be hidden, not even by the highest of quality productions. And that's what I kind of thought what we were seeing tonight with Golovkin. The hype was there, the buildup was there. Golovkin making his DAZN debut back in the ring after having fought Canelo back in September. So everything was there. And then the first few rounds went by. He's taking some shots here and there, and I'm thinking, is Golovkin aging? And that was kind of my initial thought. Of course, he on the fourth round, he ended it, and I said, that's vintage Golovkin right there. That's Golovkin that the fans fell in love with. Fans came to really admire. That's the Golovkin that everyone knows, the Triple G, right? But in those first three rounds, there was a little bit of concern, and from my perspective, just to be completely honest with you. But looking back and further analyzing the fight, I also want to take a couple things into perspective, and it also kind of changes my opinion on what we saw in those first three rounds or so. And that's that Golovkin was coming off of a long layoff, 9 months to be exact. A long break in his career when, just a year or two ago, he was considered the most active champion in boxing, or at least the most active middleweight in boxing. He was fighting 3-4 times per year. Obviously, that started to slow down when he got those fights with Canelo, started fighting only twice a year. But 9 months is a long time to be out of the ring, and that's exactly what happened with Golovkin. He was out of the ring for 9 months, took a long break, enjoyed the birth of his new child, and enjoyed time with his family. It looks like he just, completely took a break from boxing. We really didn't hear anything from him for a good while. And so I think that was a factor coming into this fight that maybe we didn't think about. Maybe we thought that we were going to see a dominant performance by Triple G as if he was just coming off a fight a few months ago. And that clearly wasn't the case. I think a lot of what we saw in the first few rounds had to do with him having maybe a little bit of ring rust, trying to get acclimated again, trying to get back into the rhythm of things, back into the groove of fighting. And I think because of that, because he wasn't necessarily, hot or, going at full speed, I think that opened the door for Rolls to kind of take advantage and find spots there to land some shots on Golovkin. So I think Rolls, and like I said, much respect to Rolls, excellent fighter who demonstrated great ability in the ring and heart. But I think a lot of the success that he did have was, of course, it was because of him. But some of it also, I believe, was because he was catching Golovkin while Golovkin was, I guess, getting his engine going, getting the motor going, getting things going, heating up and all that. And I think because of that, Rolls had opportunities there that probably wouldn't have been there had Golovkin came into the fight already at 100%. And I'm not saying that he wasn't 100%. I'm not trying to make excuses. Obviously, it's a 12-round fight, and you're making adjustments throughout the fight. It's not necessarily a sprint. You're not just coming in there to get a one-round knockout. So you're give for Golovkin, to say that Golovkin wanted to adjust in the first few rounds or so, I think it's justifiable, and I think it's okay. For example, other fighters maybe give up some rounds, right, to maybe get a breather or adjust, whatever. And I think that some of that, the success that Rolls had, although it wasn't all because of this, but I think maybe a good bit of it also was because Golovkin was just acclimating himself back into things. And not only that, but also his new trainer in his corner, Jonathan Banks. This is his first fight with Banks, and so he's got a lot of things in his mind. Clearly, you still see the same style of Golovkin that we've come to see and to become fans of over the years. That come forward pressure fighter. We saw a lot of that today as well. So yeah, I think it was also a given that you weren't going to see any major differences. But I think what we were expecting was to see maybe some new wrinkles in Golovkin's game. I do think that we saw a little bit of that. Although I also think that Golovkin kind of resorted to his old ways, I guess you can call them. And that was to come forward. I think he took some shots that he shouldn't have taken. But I did see moments here and there where Golovkin was moving his head around a lot more than he's used to. And I thought that was a good sign. And maybe in the next fight, we'll see a little bit more of that. So a lot of things going on there. The layoff, the long 9-month layoff, and having a new trainer. Things are different in your corner. So I think some things had to do more with Golovkin kind of acclimating, getting used to things, and trying to implement some of those things that Banks also taught him in the gym. A couple things here and there, which in my opinion took him 2-3 rounds to kind of get it zoned in. And that's when in the fourth round, we started to see a Golovkin that really started to kind of come on more. It looks like the engine was running, and it looks like he was ready to go. And that's exactly when those opportunities for rolls ended, and Golovkin decided to go for the kill, started to unload on his shots a lot more. Crazy left overhand right. An overhand left that he throws is just, man, it's crazy. It's such an awkward punch, but it nails them right on top of their heads, on their foreheads, and that's such a vicious punch that kind of just messes with your equilibrium and just makes you feel, like crap, I bet, just because you've seen it, Marco Antonio Rubio, and now with Steve Rolls, Golovkin lands this crazy looking overhand left to their heads that just kind of knocks them into a doozy, and that's what happened with Steve Rolls. Golovkin followed it up with a big left hand that sent him crashing into the canvas. So I think that, first 3 rounds where Golovkin kind of acclimating himself back into things. And in the fourth round, that's when he closed out the show. So, of course, there's that talk now of the Canelo trilogy going down in September. Again, I do hope that it happens next. I think it's that fight, that rivalry needs closure. And so I do hope that it happens sooner rather than later. But guys, that's about it. Let me know what you guys thought about the fight. What did you think about Triple G's performance? Were you satisfied? What about Steve Rolls as well? Let me know what you guys think and what do you want to see next now from Triple G and even Steve Rolls, guys. Steve Rolls gave a good account of himself. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and give this video a thumbs up, guys, if you enjoy the content. But till next time, I'm out. God bless you and have a great rest of your day.